r/AskReddit. What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? Not me, but a medical resident who I met on rotation recently. One of the nicest guy I ever met, super intelligent and hardworking, and training to be a trauma surgeon by humble as they come. He had been married for 2 years to his wife. One night he gets off a 30-hour call early and heads home to surprise his wife with some flowers and her favorite dessert. It was the anniversary of the day they first met, only to find her in bed with a random dude. He was so exhausted and confused, he didn't know what to do, and just left, and went back to the hospital. I saw him at 5 AM, sitting in the parking lot, hunched over crying. He didn't even have his phone with him, he was just sitting there. Man, nothing breaks your heart more than seeing a grown man cry. It's not something you see often. We called his dad up, and he came and picked him up. The guy ended up taking a leave from his residency. Turns out, it wasn't the wife's first time sleeping around. Hope he gets back on his feet. He will make an amazing physician. College girlfriend and we lived together for a year. After I realized she would always have her phone on silent, or just plain ignore calls from Jennifer. One day I write down the number and call it a week later. It ends up being her other boyfriend who she had never broken up with before she came to college. Neither of us knew about each other, and she had been visiting him when she went home to see her parents on some weekends and breaks. Broke up soon after, and her mom said that sometimes you just have to accept things, and how I owed her an apology for breaking up with her. It gets worse, but that was the gist. How does it get worse? She was a stripper, no strip clubs in Tally, so they come to you. Who I found out banged a client, and some frat dude cheated on me a week before my birthday after I had bought us tickets for a cruise. Didn't find out until after. Had a weird relationship with her female best friend who I found out she was ducking also, even though she called me crazy for even suggesting that something was up. Invited me over to talk a day after she got her own place and found a condom wrapper in the bed. Later found out she had ducked her neighbor the first day she was there. She also borrowed a ridiculous amount of money that she never paid back. She ended up reaching out to me years later when she moved to Texas after her new guy beat her and got her evicted from her office. A friend of hers had said she could get weed from her cousin, so she started chilling with some fake thugs out here. Called me at 4 AM because they had gotten pulled over and the guys didn't have licenses but had guns and drugs with them. She said she had to shove the drugs up her snatch and wanted me to come get her. I said call a cab. A week later she tells me her grandpa wanted to see me. He lived close and he remembered as the boyfriend. So I go by and she's obviously ducked up on pills but no one notices. She said the guys she had gotten pulled over with were giving her free pills because they felt sorry for her and the pulled over situation. I tell her that's not how that works and nothing is for free and to stop hanging out with them. Of course she says she know what she's doing. A few days later I get another phone call with her screaming, crying, begging me to come get her at some budget motel. Apparently she kept hanging out with the dudes and they drugged her and took turns with her and then left her. She said she passed out and woke up naked. I freak out and say call the cops, but she just wants me to smoke her out and take her to her car. I told her I didn't have any and I'd just take her to either her house or car. She freaks out and starts screaming at the top of her lungs, punching my car and windows while we are driving down the highway. Longer story short, she left a week later to go back to the old BF who beat her, got pregnant, he dumped her, and she moved to New York City to be closer to his other baby mama in hopes he'll be forced to deal with her too. There are train wrecks, and then there's this. Train wreck becomes pleasant inconvenience in comparison. Went to log into email and a suggested one that I didn't recognize popped up. I answered all his security questions and reset his password to find emails between him and the neighbor. We were in therapy to recover from him cheating with her and that they were waxing poetic about their love and when I'd be out of the house so they could be together. The actual horror story is that our 7-year-old daughter is the one who accidentally caught them originally by walking into our bedroom while I was at work. I was at Disney with our kids, day 2 of a 7-day family trip her father had been, by that point, talking up for about 7 years. He and her mother told us when the kids were born They were going to take us all to Disney when they turned 7. And 7 years later, it finally happened. At that point, we'd been together for over a decade. Had a great job, a house, bunch of kids, and the full 100% honest to goodness American dream. Life was grand until I picked up her phone to set an alarm on night 2 of our family vacation of a lifetime. There were so many texts. So many. I remember actually wanting to hurt her and having to leave the room. I immediately called the number and heard some fucking strange dude answer with a sleepy, "Hello darling. I'm glad to hear from you." I wanted to die. The sense of unreality that I experienced. It was immediately numbing. Like I'd just switched to the dark timeline. All I could think was, from this point on, everything that I have known about my left is going to change. Obligatory not me, but a friend. And I've posted this story twice before. Early 2000s, my friend's husband was deployed to Iraq. Together, they had a 10-year-old son and a happy marriage. One day, while he was deployed, I'm at home when another one of our friends calls and screams, "Holy shit, turn on the news right now." I turn it on to watch a human interest story about a fundraiser at a high school 30 miles away. They are doing Relay for Life or something, and as a surprise to one of the participants, they had her husband and father of her 2 grade school children do a video call from Iraq and displayed it on the football Jumbotron. There on our local news is my friend's husband telling another woman and 2 kids how he loves them and can't wait to get back home to them. The news eats it up about what a great guy he is. That night, our group of friends convened and decided how we would tell her. I was nominated, so the next day I had to sit her down and tell her what we saw. She called the news station, and they were happy to let her come in and watch the story. They were also incredibly apologetic. Story has a somewhat crappy ending, I'm afraid. She called him out on his BS. They started divorce proceedings, and he went on to legally marry the mother of his other kids, and mostly ignored his son from the first marriage. Had my suspicions for a couple months, but no evidence or anything. My ex lived about 40 miles from me, and we were 18. Dated and went to high school together for 3 years. She would come down into the city on weekends to spend time with me. I knew she had another group of friends in her town and a few were guys, which didn't bother me. But I woke up in the middle of the night and messaged her on Facebook, only to notice she had been tagged in a photo with one of her friends. He was holding her up and kissing her. It was his new profile picture. I messaged the guy and calmly asked what was going on. He immediately responded and was confused. We decided to meet up for coffee the next morning. That my ex was over, and the look on her face was priceless when she saw him walk in and sit beside me. She begged for our forgiveness and claimed she loved us both. Turned out it had been going on for 7 months, and that every time she left my place during the weekends she was returning home to him for the week. Me and the other guy are now best friends and share a house with my fiance and his girlfriend. Duck you, Taylor. I met this girl who was working the late shift at a drugstore. We'd flirted a few times, eventually exchanged numbers, and started sleeping together. After a few weeks, she invited me to go drinking at this crappy little bar she liked in the north side of the city. So we spent the night dancing together, drinking, and talking to people she knows. Eventually a guy comes up to me, saying, "Great to meet you finally. Congratulations on the engagement. What are you talking about?" I replied, laughing as I choked on my drink a bit. Guy gives me a quizzical look and says, "You're here with Corey. It's Paul, right?" I raised an eyebrow and pointed a thumb to my chest, stating, "Nah man, name's Kyle." We stared at each other, watching each other realize what was playing out on this faithful night. Corey was engaged to a guy named Paul. I was the other guy. Paul worked out of town for weeks at a time. It was actually interesting how you literally could see the word travel around the small bar, drastically changing the vibe in the room. We left shortly after. She brought me, the guy she was cheating on her fiance with, to her favorite bar. She brought me to a place full of friends that at least knew her well enough to know she was engaged to a guy named Paul, not Kyle. Messed up stuff. Didn't see her again after that. According to Facebook, Paul and Corey are currently married. Not me, but one of my best mates. His girlfriend snuck a guy into their 1-bedroom apartment whilst he was playing Xbox in the living room. I heard the argument through the mic. After he heard a noise coming from the bedroom, he kicked her out and continued playing with us. Edit. Alrighty, this certainly blew up. To the people saying my buddy deserved it because he is addicted to video games, I don't know where you got that from. He only plays when there is a bit of spare time. She is just a shit person. After he caught them in the act and kicked her out, he came back onto the mic to tell us what happened and to get off the game. We encouraged him to stay on and talk everything through with us. We were in different countries at the time and couldn't see him in person because we were worried. Their relationship had been a little rocky, but who would guess that someone would cheat, and especially in the next room. He is a great guy who did not deserve that happen to him. He is now in a healthy relationship with a wonderful lady. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comment section below.